Hey everybody, John Randine with you here in the FN studios, and this is Fight News Now Extra. Robin Black will join me to discuss the news of the day. Making headlines, the UFC announces a killer lightweight bout, an ATT tough guy gets a date in South Korea with a local, and the World Series of Fighting is set to hold a 155-pound tournament. Blackzilian representative Michael Johnson is hoping to rebound from a controversial split decision loss to Beneil Dariush earlier this month when he collides with the always entertaining Nathan Diaz. The two lightweights will meet at UFC on Fox 17, which is set to go down on December 19th in Orlando, Florida. Diaz is 1-3 in his past 4, and the California native will try to bounce back after a loss to the current champion Rafael dos Anjos last December. The UFC will make their debut in South Korea on November 28th. For a loaded fight night event. Top-ranked Dong Young Kim will tangle with American top team's Jorge Masvidal, who moves up to 170 pounds. The 23-1 Kim last saw action this past May, where he dispatched American Josh Berkman by submission, while Gamebred will try to make it 2 in a row. And finally, the World Series of Fighting is taking a page out of Bellator's book. The promotion is set to hold a one-night, 8-man lightweight tournament with the winner to get a crack at the 155-pound championship. The event will take place on November 20th at World Series of Fighting 25 in Seattle, Washington. Tournament participants include George Patino, Brian Foster, and Tough alum Mike Ricci. And next Saturday, don't forget to tune in to our preview show at 7 p.m. Eastern as we get you set for UFC 191, with the main event being Demetrius Johnson taking on the challenger John Dodson for the 125-pound championship. Robin Black now joins me. We are talking about everything in the world of mixed martial arts, World Series of Fighting, having a tournament. We got to talk about this show in South Korea, headlined by Ben Henderson and Thiago Alves. Not the same Thiago Alves that you flew with from Saskatoon, but nonetheless a great card. It's surprising that it's a fight night card, considering Mirko Cro Cop also on this show, as well as Dong Young Kim and Gamebred. Also, Akiyama makes his return. This really should be a pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is outstanding. In particular, Dong Young Kim versus Masvidal.
Yeah,
that's some good times, man. That is some fun stuff. I want to see Masvidal at 170. Kind of makes sense up there. He doesn't really like to cut weight, and he's a skill guy. He's a flow guy. If he has a good night, and he'll be faster than a lot of the guys that he fights, if he has a good night, he makes you work, and he works around you. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles Dong Young Kim. Kim's a grinder. He's a fluid mover. That one's going to be a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody that we met in Saskatoon, too, speaking of fight nights. You know, these shows, when they go into a different territory and they put on these events, there's some people really love it, and we had a great time in Saskatoon.
One of the things that we were talking with a number of athletes and trainers in Saskatoon about is this whole drug situation. And we've seen guys that it's like, oh, it's obvious they're getting off the gas. They have to go down to the weight class below what they're currently fighting at. But we've heard a lot of guys say, well, actually, we're going to see some guys move up in weight as well. You look at this card, and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. You talk about Masvidal, spent the majority of his career fighting at 155 pounds, moving up to 170 pounds. We know he's getting a little bit older, and we've seen that from athletes. They start their career at a certain weight division, and the older they get, they eventually make the move, whether it's 155 pounds moving up to 170, and then eventually making the move to 185 pounds. For Thiago Alves, for example, he's moving down from 170 pounds to 155. So why is there a difference?
I think, you know, the drugs play a part in it. And not only for the athletes that have gone through that drug era and through the steroid era of the UFC and are coming out the other side now, they're going to change divisions. But a guy like Masvidal, who, you know, you get the feeling is clean, all the anecdotal evidence says that he's kind of a clean guy, he can experiment around with where the guys who used to do drugs are. And how has this changed things? If every athlete is clean, maybe he's not worried about fighting the big guys. Because at 170, he'd have been fighting 200 pounds, sometimes juiced up guys, using particular performance enhancers to cut down to 170. He wouldn't have wanted any part of that. But in a clean era, he's like, actually, I could go up and fight those bigger guys. They don't have that rugged cut from 200 pounds kind of frame. And but you will see guys going up who used to use drugs as well, because there's certain cutting agents guys take to be leaner and denser and smaller that they won't be able to take now. The IV band, we talked to Brian Stan. We worked out with Brian Stan. Great guy. Awesome to be able to catch up and share some ideas with him. We talked a lot about that IV band. And Elliot Marshall.
Yeah, and he says, and not to cut you off there, he said, you know, the difference is you immediately feel relieved. You feel that your body's rejuvenated, where Brian's stance is when there's no IV, it takes longer for your body to feel normal.
Yeah, but it's a psychological crutch because the science, you go into, you look at the science will point you in the right direction. It is better to absorb through the stomach than to absorb intravenously. If you had a very sick kid or you had dehydrated down a certain way, whether you were lost in the desert or something, they will not IV you. They will slowly give you ice chips and they'll rehydrate you through the stomach because it's better. It's better for your body. It's better for recovery. So the science is actually that the IV is not better for you. But psychologically, like Elliot was telling us, the second it's in there, you feel great. You're like, yes, I can fight. 20 minutes ago, when you're cutting, you don't feel like you could fight anything anywhere at any time. And 20 minutes later, now you're back. Whereas when you drink water and you do it through the stomach lining, it's slower and it's a more gradual way back. But hey, there's no IVs, so you got to get used to it, man. It's a mental crutch. You don't need it.
A World Series of Fighting. Do you like this idea? A one-night, 8-man tournament, and the winner will get a crack at either Justin Gaethje, who's currently the champion, or Luis Palomino. Those two are set to battle it out again. If you have not seen the first fight between Palomino and Justin Gaethje, and you're a fan of mixed martial arts and crazy risk-taking, this is the fight you need to see. There's a reason why they're doing it again, because it was so entertaining. Very similar to the Bigfoot Silva Mark Hunt. We're hoping that it goes down the same way that it did the first time.
Yeah, you know, this 8-man tournament, the purist in me loves it, you know? Absolutely loves
3
it.
fights in one night.
Through the early era that we love, where we saw some of the best athletes really finding their way through the forest of fighting, you know, through the dense, scary, dark forest of fighting. They did that, and we loved it. But there's a reason that it's kind of gone the way of the dinosaur, and it's because it's so hard on it. It's unpredictable. You really, but in modern day today, as much as we would admire anyone who could fight 3 times in a night, there's going to be guys who won't be able to have a second fight, won't have a third. There's some danger issues. There's some concussion issues. It just doesn't seem safe in 2015. The purist in me loves it, though.
You're going to tune in. I'm going to tune in. It is going to be loaded with action. That is it for us. Don't go anywhere. More FNNE is still to come.